missing Denise, but this is a celebration of her life. And I want to thank all of you for coming on behalf of the family. Austin.
Shukwa ayo twasi guj this jaye gugenkoe. Ha yu tangi singit yu tangi khosayehi. Ya ha singit city tu del tu siku aya ushiegach tu stin. Ya yiwak shi aya sanaha yitu sabu at kegach tu shi. So that was a little bit in Tlingit, and I was just saying we're going to sing a song for you all, and the song is called Sanaha. Yadua sa sanaha shikaye shikaya we are hey we are hey we are hey we are Yadua sa sanaha shikaye shikaya we are hey we are hey we are hey we are Yadua sa sanaha shikaye shikaya we are hey we are hey we are hey we are Yadua sa sanaha shikaye shikaya we are hey we are hey we are hey we are
Just want to say thank you to all of you from my heart for coming here and giving us strength and backing us and being our friends. We'll miss her very much. And I'll offer this prayer. Oh my God, O forgiver of sins and dispeller of afflictions, O thou who art the pardoner, the merciful, I raise my suppliant hands to thee, cheerfully beseeching the court of thy divine essence, to forgive through thy grace and cleanse this handmaid who hath ascended unto the seat of truth. Immerse her in the ocean of thy forgiveness and pardon, and enable her to enter the sanctified abode, the heavenly paradise. Thou art verily the mighty, the compassionate, the generous, and the merciful. Abdul Baha.
Kasachet ya klei kriati Kaya hit, kaya ya, kaya on, kaya take, kaya shaw, kaya daisy, kaya ku, kaya shanuch, kaya tlitk, kaya eight, kaya chat, kaya shachk, gu sadiki on kawu, Auduasai Kadu Kashepi Kudigun. What should I translate?
Yeah.
Okay. It says, Blessed is the spot, and the house, and the place, and the city, and the heart, and the mountain, and the refuge, and the cave, and the valley, and the land, and the sea, and the island, and the meadow, where mention of God hath been made, and his praise glorified. Baha'u'llah.
I'm Terry, some know me as Teresa. I'm Denise's older sister, and I just want to thank you all also for being here. What a wonderful, beautiful crowd. I knew it was going to be big. I knew she touched a lot of lives, but look at this. Denise always saw the beauty in life. She accepted every challenge dealt to her without complaint and found reason to be grateful in every situation. She deeply loved our family and without a doubt believed she was blessed to be a member of the best family in the world. Words can't describe how we're missing her. When we lost our sister Laura, I was given this reading of comfort and hope, and I hope that it'll bring some of you some comfort and hope also. So many people see in death nothing but a cruel separation from loved ones. In death, there is certainly the very real pain and sorrow of physical separation, but it is equally true that our loved ones remain with us. They do not just go off to some dark and distant place. They simply continue into eternal life. We do not see them because we're still in the darkness of this world, but their spiritual eyes, filled with the light of heaven, are always watching us as they wait for the day when we shall share their perfect joy. We're born for heaven, and we end this life of tears to begin our life of endless happiness. I have often reflected upon this beautiful truth and found it the greatest and surest comfort in time of mourning. A firm faith in the real and continual presence of our loved ones has brought the conviction and consolation that death has not destroyed them nor carried them away. Rather, it has given them life, a life with power to know fully and to love perfectly. With this new life and new power, our loved ones are always present to us, knowing and loving us more than ever before. The tears that dampen our eyes in times of mourning are tears of homesickness, tears of longing for our loved ones. But it is we who are away from home, not they. Death has been for them a doorway to an eternal home. They're still with us, lovingly and tenderly, waiting for the day when we too will enter the doorway of our eternal home. It is such a mistake to see death as separation and nothing more. For us who believe death is a preparation for eternal union with those we love in the peace and joy of heaven. Thank you.
Excerpt from her dad's book, Eulogy of a Lost Frontier. Irene was in some discomfort during the first 2 months or so on that job because she was already about 6 or 7 months pregnant when we moved to Nana. About the second week in July, she started having labor pains or some such indication of the imminent arrival of a baby. She was reasonably well experienced with this sort of thing, so I figured she must know what was probably about to happen. She contacted a local bush pilot named Paul, who was well certified and recognized as the best bush pilot in the area. Luckily, he had enough time to take Irene to Fairbanks that very day. I think it must have been a Sunday or Saturday or something. There's a deep and relatively broad canyon along the Tanana River between Nenana and Fairbanks, and there is only a sizable air pressure difference between one end and the other, frequently causing rather violent winds along that stretch of the river. The canyon was a part of the normal bush pilot route between Nenana and Fairbanks. Nonetheless, we had to get Irene to town by plane because there was just no time to drive there considering the ferry delay. Later, she told me that the plane was tossed around like a cork going through the canyon, and I suppose she must have been scared as hell. I know I would have been. However, either she wasn't frightened, or she wouldn't admit it. Being the facade of loving tenderness there existed a tough lady, and she proved that so many times during our marriage. Anyway, when they got to Fairbanks, it turned out that she wasn't ready to deliver at all, and it seemed to I recall her telling me that her doctor said she was about a month away from bringing baby number 3 home. He was a bad estimator. On July 28th, she started having serious labor pains again, and this time she knew it was the real thing. Paul was out flying around somewhere, and he didn't know of any other way to get to Fairbanks. I was in something of a panic, although Irene wasn't. She was always the epitome of the unflappable Molly Brown in a situation like this. I say again, a tough lady. I drove her to the airport hoping to find a pilot hanging around who, for a price, would like to take her to Fairbanks. By the grace of God, and I really believe it was, we got there at the same time as a BLM, Bureau of Land Management, DC-4 that was refueling at Nana while returning to Fairbanks after dropping off a bunch of firefighters up deep in the interior. When we described our crisis, the plane crew welcomed Irene on board, provided her with some sort of relaxing refreshment, and left for town with her being the only passenger. I guess there was even a steward aboard, and Irene later told me she had never received more solicitous and attentive service. That was an example of a true Alaskan way as it used to be. When they got to Fairbanks, they rushed her to a cab and on to St. Joseph's Hospital, where Irene brought our third daughter, Denise Jay, into the world. I can't remember whether I got into Fairbanks before Irene left the hospital, or if I didn't see Denise until they got back to Nana. In either case, I was just as nonplussed and incredulous as I had been at the arrival of Laura and Terry.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. I know that it's all just biology, and that I've read and understood all the details and all the physiological mechanics involved just the same. I can't seem to come to terms with the obvious fact of the juxtaposition of all these human biological conditions that must come together properly in order to interact and produce tiny human beings. It seems like in the normal world, the chances of all these things happening at the right time and in the right place to cause such a thing would be almost non-existent. I guess the same sort of mysteries happen with most critters, and I bet that the male of all those species are just as bamboozled as what happens as I always was. Irene brought Denise home to Nana, and she joined our growing family as a full-fledged member.
Denise Jay Cox, born July 31st, 1958, passed away July 31st, 2022. An indescribable loss to so many, and on the very day of her birth. 64 years on earth, Denise was unjustifiably and without deliberation stripped from this world, leaving those that knew her speechless, without answers or reason, left only in blank despair. How can this be? Why our beloved Denise? Makes no sense. These are the questions on which we were left bewildered, and whose answers are unknowable to us. All that is left now is a time to mourn, a time to remember Denise. It's difficult to explain who Denise was to those who had not had the blessing to know her. You could say that she was selfless, but hardly conveys the depth of her service to others. It barely touches on the profound gift of herself that she gave to those around her. Expecting no recognition or return, she gave of herself fully, she participated completely, and she loved without condition. Her contributions are too many to number, from volunteering at her kids' school to taking on a position as a safe companion where she would support patients at high risk of suicide, to being a labor coach for her niece, or her involvement in the Women's Golf Club. Her mark on this world would become forever engraved. She quite literally dedicated her life to caregiving of others. Not once or twice, or even any countable number of times, she cared for others continually and without falter. You could say that Denise was accepting of others, but that would merely glance upon the strength of her character. Denise always accepted people for exactly who they are. In fact, there was very little that could surprise her. She empathized without judgment. She was not one that required that others share common beliefs or act in any particular way. But in her example, she was godly. Her view of others would remain untarnished regardless of the situation. She had a way of quietly recognizing the human condition and would make others feel worthy and comfortable as no one else would understand. You might say that Denise was smart and understanding of the world around her, but anybody that ever sat beside, or more so opposite her in a puzzle or a game of intellect, would attest to her strength of mind. She analyzed the world critically and enjoyed the idea that this quality was one that ran throughout her family, especially in her own children. Of course, her mind was often occupied with more playful endeavors, like teaching the kids how to shoot the paper wrapping off of a soda straw. She was witty. She had fun and was so perfectly mischievous and unafraid to laugh at the quirky things in life. She never took herself too seriously. Denise was a mother, a daughter, a wife, a sister, an auntie, a friend, a confidant, a caregiver. She was all these things, and she filled a hole in the lives of many. With her so suddenly gone, a void is open that can never be filled. She was a vital part in the daily lives of so many people and an irreplaceable member of her community. All of us that knew her will never forget. Even now, it's nearly impossible to come to terms with the idea that she is no longer with us. Even now, it seems premature to use the words of past tense like was. Today, Denise is. She is in our hearts forever. Her example lives on within the people she touched. Her light lives on in our stories. Her legacy survives in her children and in her family and friends. She is still our sister, our mother, our daughter, our auntie, our friend, our wife. Denise will never leave us, not now, not ever. And on that distant, unknowable shore, the one on which are those that have gone before, it seems more likely than not that we shall see her again. Miss you, Niecy.
For Denise. Thy name is my healing. Oh my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing and my song. In both this world and